Welcome back to the deep dive. So today we are wrestling with a text that is, it's deceptively simple.
It really is.
On the surface, it reads like a fable,
Uh-huh.
something you'd tell a kid to get them to do their homework.
Right. But when you actually try to map the trajectory it describes, the math, it just barely makes sense.
It doesn't. We usually talk about rags to riches.
You're right.
That's the classic trope. We love it.
Sure. But the source material we have today, from dustbins to diamonds, the self-made titan, it pushes the definition of rags to a literal biological extreme.
Exactly. We aren't talking about a college dropout in a garage with a small loan.
No.
We're talking about a starting point of absolute zero. Actually, you could argue it starts below zero.
I would argue below zero, yes, because you have the financial deficit, the poorness the text mentions, but you also have a caloric deficit. I mean, you are starting in the red biologically.
Right. And that is where I want to start. The source material is so blunt. It describes the subject's environment as having a lot of poorness, which is quite the understatement.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then it hits us with this specific phrase, a nothing-to-eat type situation.
It's a haunting phrase, so matter of fact, nothing to eat type situation.
And I want to pause there because I think we, as modern listeners, we just glaze over that. I skip lunch because I'm busy and I say I'm starving.
Right.
But this text isn't using a metaphor.
No, it's describing a physiological crisis. And to really get the weight of this story, we have to understand the psychology of scarcity. There's a lot of research on this, specifically this concept of tunneling. Yeah. When you are truly chronically hungry, your cognitive bandwidth just narrows. You literally cannot think about 5 years from now.
You can only think about 5 minutes from now.
Exactly. Your brain is hijacked completely.
Okay.
Studies show that your functional IQ actually drops when you are in a state of severe scarcity. The brain is screaming, find calories, not find a business strategy.
It just prioritizes immediate survival over everything.
Everything. Which makes the story wildly improbable, because the central tension here is, how does a person whose brain should be in panic mode manage to plot a trajectory to becoming the single richest man in the world?
That is the anomaly.
It is. Most people in a nothing-to-eat situation are just trapped in a loop.
A survival loop.
A survival loop. They can't plan the escape because they're too busy trying not to die today. So the mission of this deep dive is to unpack the specific mechanism he used to break that loop.
Okay.
Because clearly, he didn't just get lucky. You don't luck your way from starvation to global dominance.
There's a method here. And the method is surprising because it involves two things that, well, they usually don't go together. Back-breaking manual labor and garbage.
Garbage. And we're going to get to the dustbin education because that's the hook that grabbed both of us.
It is.
But we have to establish the labor first. The text says he was picking and doing manual labor jobs.
And again, just note the vagueness there. Picking, it doesn't say apprentice carpenter or anything like that.
No.
It implies repetition. It implies low skill.
It implies he was a cog. In economics, we'd call this the commodity trap. If you are selling pure manual labor, just your physical body, you are in a market with a race to the bottom.
There's always someone willing to do it for cheaper.
Always. It is incredibly hard to build wealth when your only asset is your sweat.
And yet, for him, this was the necessary first step. It solved that nothing-to-eat problem.
It bought him time. And this is a crucial insight for anyone listening who feels stuck in the grind. In this story, the manual labor wasn't the career.
No.
It was the battery pack. He was trading sweat for calories so that his brain could stay online. He was purchasing his own survival 1 hour of picking at a time.
But here's the catch, and I kind of want to challenge this idea of the noble grind a bit.
Right.
Usually that kind of hard manual labor,
Yep.
it kills curiosity.
Yeah.
You work 12 hours hauling debris, you come home, you're exhausted, your body hurts, you don't want to learn physics.
Want to sleep.
You just want to sleep. That's the standard cycle of poverty, right?
Right.
Exhaustion leads to inaction, which leads to more poverty.
Exactly. But this is where the self-made titan just breaks the model. He didn't let the exhaustion shut down the input valve,
He opened a second channel.
a second channel. While the body was engaged in the picking, the mind was looking for fuel. And since he couldn't afford tuition, couldn't buy books, he found the only free supply chain available.
The dustbins. The text is so explicit. Books thrown in dustbin by other.
By other, that simple phrase, it does a lot of heavy lifting in this narrative.
It really does. It sets up this huge dichotomy.
Hmm.
You have one group of people, the others, who are wealthy enough to see knowledge as disposable. They're throwing books away.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have our subject, who views those same books as a lifeline.
It's a perfect example of arbitrage.
Right, in finance,
Yeah.
taking advantage of a price difference.
Exactly. But here we have informational arbitrage. The value of that book in the dustbin was 0 to the previous owner. It was negative value, actually. It was trash taking up space.
But to the boy, its value was
Infinite. He essentially got an education for free because he was willing to do the dirty work of retrieval.
Okay, but let's play devil's advocate here for a second.
Yeah.
Can you really get a world-class education from trash? I mean, we're talking about random books.
Right.
The text says the situation, implying a huge variety. He isn't following a syllabus. He's not starting with Intro to Economics.
No.
He's finding, like, a romance novel one day, a geography book with the cover ripped off the next.
And that's the fascinating part. You're right. It's chaotic. It is completely nonlinear. But I would argue that might be a feature, not a bug.
How so? Standard education is supposed to be efficient. It's structured.
Standard education is linear. It teaches you to think in a straight line. A leads to B leads to C. But the real world, especially the world of high-stakes business and innovation, it's chaotic. It requires connecting dots that don't look like they go together.
So, by learning from a random pile of discarded books, he was inadvertently training his brain to synthesize unconnected data.
Exactly. Imagine the cognitive load that takes. He finds a book with the first 20 pages ripped out. He has to deduce the context. He has to fill in the blanks himself. He finds a book on biology and a book on mechanics. His brain naturally starts looking for the overlap.
He's building a unique mental lattice.
One that no Harvard MBA has, because no Harvard MBA studied that specific random combination of texts found in a dumpster.
It's the ultimate autodidactic path. He isn't just learning the what, he's learning how to learn. He's building the puzzle without the picture on the box.
And he's learning resilience. Think about the humiliation factor.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. It's not some glorious movie montage.
Oh.
It's digging through other people's trash. People see you doing that.
Right. Socially, that is a signal of being at the absolute bottom of the hierarchy. Most people would be too proud. They would rather starve or at least stay in that manual labor lane than be seen digging in a bin.
So by crossing that barrier,
he proved that his desire for information was stronger than his fear of judgment. And that is a massive superpower.
it's almost a filter.
Yeah.
If you're willing to look in the dustbin, you've eliminated 99% of your competition who aren't.
You're playing a game no one else wants to play.
Precisely. And this connects back to the Titan outcome. When we look at self-made billionaires, we often look for the secret, right?
Yeah.
Was it a specific stock pick, a tech invention?
Yeah, the one big thing.
But the source suggests the secret was this foundational attitude. Value is where you find it, not where society tells you it is.
That's a key takeaway right there. Society puts a premium on the shiny books on the shelf. We pay full price for the hardcover. But this guy realized the stuff on the floor has the exact same data in it.
And the data is what matters.
Right.
The packaging is irrelevant. This is pure efficiency. It's stripping away the ego from the acquisition of knowledge.
Okay, so we have the engine. Manual labor fuels the body. Dustbin books fuel the mind. And the text implies this happened over a long time. It wasn't a one-week experiment. No, it was a lifestyle. And this brings us to the self-made part of the title. We have to talk about agency. In this text, the environment is hostile. The economic system is hostile. But the boy is the active agent. He picks, he reads, he climbs.
It really challenges the narrative of privilege when it comes to information access. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying poverty's good.
Of course not.
The text is clear it was a nothing-to-eat nightmare. But we often make excuses. Oh, I can't learn that new skill because I can't afford the boot camp.
Right, I don't have the network.
Exactly. And this story essentially asks, is the information available in the garbage? If the answer is yes, then your excuse just evaporated.
And we live in an era where the dustbin is now the internet. You have access to more information for free than the President of the United States had 40 years ago.
That's a heavy realization. We're drowning in the diamonds that this kid had to dig for. We have the opposite problem.
And yet, we often lack the hunger. That's the irony, isn't it? He had the literal hunger, which drove the metaphorical hunger for knowledge. We have the feast, this unlimited information, but we often lack the appetite to digest it.
Let's talk about the transition. The text jumps from this struggle directly to eventually becomes this richest guy. It's a huge time jump.
Huge.
But based on this specific dustbin curriculum, how do you think that transition happens? How does a scavenger become a CEO?
I think it's about recognizing inefficiencies. If you spend your formative years finding value in waste, you develop a specific lens.
Okay.
When you walk into a corporate boardroom or look at a supply chain, you don't see it like everyone else. Everyone else sees this is how we do things.
Can you see?
You see, look at all this waste. Look at this inefficiency. Look at this value no one is claiming.
You see the diamonds and the dustbins of the market?
Exactly. You become a disruptor, not because you're trying to be cool, but because you are fundamentally wired to spot the gap between price and value.
And his risk tolerance must be completely different, right?
Right. Oh, absolutely. This is the concept of asymmetric risk. If you start at absolute zero, if you know what nothing to eat feels like, you are far less afraid of failure than someone trying to protect a middle-class lifestyle.
If you go bankrupt, you just go back to where you started?
And you know you can survive there. You've done it. That gives you the courage to make the massive bets required to become the richest man.
So the poverty, paradoxically, de-risked his future decisions. He knew the worst-case scenario, and he knew he could survive it.
It removed the floor. Or maybe it showed him that the floor wasn't as scary as people think.
I want to circle back to the text's description of the books one more time. Books thrown in dustbin by others. There's such a weird social commentary there on the people throwing them away. Who are these people?
Well, they represent the incumbent status quo. They are the people who have so much abundance that they become careless. They stop valuing the knowledge because it came so easily to them.
It's the curse of abundance.
Right.
When something is cheap, we treat it as trash.
Right, and history is full of civilizations and companies that fell because they got too comfortable and stopped valuing the fundamentals. This story is a microcosm of that.
The establishment throws away the keys to the kingdom.
And the hungry outsider picks them up and walks right through the front door.
It's a warning, as much as it is an inspirational story. If you're sitting comfortable right now, what are you throwing away? What are you neglecting?
That is the question. And it's not just books. It's relationships. It's ideas. Feedback. How often do we get critical feedback and just throw it in the bin because we don't like the packaging?
Oh, yeah. Like, oh, that person was rude to me, so I'm going to ignore their point.
Right. But the self-made titan would say, was the point valid? If yes, take the point. Ignore the rudeness. Extract the diamond. Leave the dustbin.
Separate the signal from the noise. The content from the container.
That is the core intellectual skill here.
I love that. It's about becoming a ruthless extractor of value. It doesn't matter if it comes from a mentor at Yale or a manual in a dumpster.
The market does not care where you learned the lesson. It only cares that you learned it.
So as we look at the whole trajectory, hunger, labor, scavenging, dominance, it seems the connective tissue is this refusal to accept the environment's definition of the situation.
Yes.
The environment said, you are poor, you are nothing. He said, no, I am a student.
He reframed reality. That is the ultimate act of agency. He looked at a pile of trash and renamed it library. And once you can do that, once you can mentally relabel the resources around you, you become very dangerous in the best possible way.
It sounds almost stoic, like Marcus Aurelius type stuff. The obstacle is the way.
It is very stoic. It's the alchemy of turning lead into gold, or in this case, dust into diamonds. The pressure of the situation didn't crush him, it crystallized him.
But let's be real for a second. Not everyone makes it out. The text acknowledges the lot of poorness.
Of course.
Most people in that environment stay in that environment. What was the differentiator? Was it just a high IQ?
IQ helps, sure, but plenty of smart people stay poor. I think the differentiator in this text is the action. Note that he didn't just read. He picked and did manual labor.
He combined the intellectual with the practical. He didn't just sit on a pile of trash and dream.
Exactly. He worked. High-minded philosophy without execution is useless. Execution without strategy is just drudgery. He found the intersection.
He executed on the labor to stay alive.
And he used the strategy from the books to plot the escape. You need both engines running.
It's like a dual-core processor. One core for survival, one for advancement.
And that is incredibly hard to maintain. It requires massive energy. That's why I'm always hesitant to just say work harder. It's not just effort. It's the direction of the effort.
And he directed his effort toward acquiring an asset nobody could take away from him.
Knowledge. Yes, money can be stolen. A job can be lost. But the concepts he learned from those books, the physics, the stories, the logic, that became part of his software.
It became his equity. His first equity wasn't stock in a company. It was the compounded knowledge in his own head.
And that equity compounded year over year until it manifested as financial wealth. It's a compounding interest story. He started investing in his own brain when the capital investment was literally $0. Just time, and dignity.
And the return on investment was infinite.
Infinite.
So bringing this back to the listener, we've established this is an extreme case.
Yeah.
From dustbins to diamonds. Most of us are not starting from the dustbin,
Hopefully not, no.
but the principles,
Yeah.
they still transfer.
Yeah.
If you feel like you're lacking resources, I don't have the budget, I don't have the time, this story is a pretty harsh mirror.
It strips the excuses away. It forces you to ask, am I resource constrained or am I just resource blind?
Resource blind. I like that.
Are the resources there, but I'm too proud to pick them up? Or am I waiting for them to be packaged perfectly free? Am I waiting for the perfectly formatted online course when the raw documentation is already available for free?
It challenges our definition of opportunity. We usually wait for opportunity to knock. This guy went out and dug opportunity out of the ground.
Opportunity is rarely sitting on a silver platter. It's usually covered in dirt. It looks like hard work. It looks like boring reading. It looks like a problem no one else wants to solve.
So the richest man isn't the one who wins the lottery. He's the one who gets his hands the dirtiest, finding the things others missed.
That's the thesis of the text.
Yeah.
The wealth wasn't created by magic. It was salvaged. It was salvaged from the waste of the world through sheer force of will.
Salvage from the waste.
Yeah,
That is a powerful image to hold on to.
it is. And it makes you look at the world differently. When you walk down the street today, look at what people are ignoring. Look at what's being thrown away, literally or metaphorically. That is where the alpha is. That is where the edge is.
The edge is in the dustbin.
The edge is in the dustbin.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I'm thinking about the trajectory one last time. From the biological crisis of nothing to eat, through the physical grind of manual labor, to the intellectual awakening of the dustbin books, all the way to the summit of Richest Guy.
It is a complete arc of human potential.
And it leaves us with a provocative question. We asked it at the start, but I want to reframe it now that we've unpacked the mechanism.
Go for it.
If this titan could build a global empire, starting with books found in the trash, what resources are currently sitting right in front of you in your office, in your inbox, in your local library, or even in the problems you complain about that you're treating as waste? What diamonds are you stepping over because they look like dustbins?
That is the question to meditate on. The diamond is there. You just have to bend down and pick it up.
Thanks for diving deep with us. Keep looking for the diamonds, and we'll see you on the next one.
Goodbye, everyone.